And here we are, live again. Welcome to the Light 'em Up Lounge. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, folks, wherever you're joining us from. Many thanks for taking the time out of your precious day, joining us here at the Light 'em Up Lounge for a wonderful show that I've been looking forward to for such a long time. We made it happen. Ben Willis from Sistas and Smoke is here with us today. And I'm delighted, I'm honored, I'm excited. It's fabulous to have Ben with us, sharing the story of Sistas and Smoke and talking to us about all the wonderful work she's been doing for the better part of 13 years as a cigar enthusiast, 5 years in content creation. But we'll talk about all that in a moment. So again, welcome. Thanks everybody for joining us. If you're watching us on Facebook, please make yourselves heard in the comments. Put your thoughts underneath the live stream. I'm always checking so I can forward your questions and your thoughts to Ben Wills here with us. Ben,
hi
welcome to Light 'em
guys.
Up.
Thank you. Man, Reinhard made me sound so fancy.
Well, look at you. Nobody needs to do anything to make you look fancy, sound fancy, or be fancy. It's a privilege to have you with us, really. Thank you so much. And I still fondly recall the wonderful moments that we shared in Orange County, and it seems just like yesterday. But then I realized how time has been flying. We're in the middle of October, approaching our Christmas special already, and even though the PCA feels like yesterday, it's literally just around the corner with the March date coming up.
Yeah.
But Ben, what a privilege to have you with us. To
I'm
start
happy to
things
be
off,
here.
I think if anybody out there is interested in cigars and by any chance happens to have an Instagram account, I think there's no chance you don't know Ben Wills and Sisters in Smoke. And you handle yourself with class and finesse and with elegance, and you make a most heartfelt contribution to the cigar industry, to the female cigar community. And I can tell you that all the people I've met truly admire it and appreciate it, and I certainly do. But I'm curious, first of all, how did you start with cigars, and then how did Sisters in Smoke came to life?
Well, I've told this story before, but I have one of my best friends, Ken Kenyon. He used to play ball, and we were in Dallas for NBA All-Star. And he comes out on the patio and he's like, "Hey, smoke this. Don't inhale," right? Exact words, right? I'm thinking, I've been inhaling my whole life. I have no idea what you're talking about. So we figured it out. He handed me my first cigar was Drew Estate Tobacco Negra. And ironically, he lit the cigar for me with the band, the foot band. Now that I go back and look at the photos, the foot band was still on there. So classic, like rookie mistake, right? And then thereafter, I only smoked when we traveled. And at some point, I had to, put my big girl pants on and venture into a cigar lounge on my own and figure out, what to get. But that's it's definitely a very interesting story there. But I figured it out eventually with no help from him in the beginning, though. No help.
May I ask, how did you know Ken at that stage, or did you know that he was an avid cigar smoker, or
Ken
was
and
it
I,
really just by accident?
Ken and I have been friends since I was 24. I met him when I used to work in PR with my sister, and one of our clients used to play for the Cowboys at the same time. So I met him then, and then, we've been friends ever since. And then I guess, somebody introduced him and he introduced me, and then everything else up into
Fell into place.
Instagram, was because of him. So.
And then here comes Sisters in Smoke, that fabulous idea that started as a heartfelt initiative, evolved into a beautiful movement. I think we can almost say, in the community, events, content creation, and a good place for people in the cigar industry, of course, for females in the cigar industry and women who appreciate cigars. What was the initial concept or the idea that you had before launching Sistas and Smoke?
It wasn't a concept. I mean, honestly, I was at a party smoking aroma crafts, actually. And I took a photo with a female DJ that I know. And the photo looked like an album cover from the 99 and the 2000s. So my caption for that photo was Sisters and Smoke, right? And immediately I was like, oh, that'd be a cute Instagram name. My regular friends don't smoke, or at the time they didn't smoke. They could have cared less. And so like I just snatched the Instagram and I was like, oh yeah, like this is what I'll smoke under. There was no original plan to it. And then somehow or another, right before COVID, I always smoke on my fire escape. And I don't know what it is about that dungy corner of mine, but it seemed to work. And I think me trying to figure out what I like to smoke outside of, my friends' handoffs is kind of like where it kind of snowballed into. And at the time, I'm not saying that there weren't any girls, but in my space, it wasn't. It was usually me, Ken, and his friends. I felt like I was the tag along at the time. I don't think I met women that smoked officially until I went to Atlanta Cigar Week for her aficionados event called She Smokes Too. And that is probably the first time I'd seen so many women. It's like, oh, I'm not here by myself. I'm not, oh my God, it was so many. It was everybody. It's hundreds of women. And I feel like I've been going ever since.
Svetlana from Germany, she just posted on Facebook on the live stream that you were actually one of the first and the most inspiring cigar woman that she's ever seen on Instagram. And I have a strong feeling that quite a few people might think that way. And it's fabulous to see the impact that you had and the inspiration you brought to maybe a lot of cigar enthusiasts. And we know there's been multiple platforms. The Women's International Cigar Club, Sarah Saunders has been doing great work. You have the what's now called the Sotul Global movement, with the Sotul First, with Anastasia. And I feel that in the last couple of years in particular, women who enjoy premium cigars and women within the cigar industry have truly made an extra step in front of the curtain, if that makes sense, and have been more vocal about their enthusiasm and also their knowledge and experience, even though it's such a century-old thing. I mean, we all know that the female contributions to the art and craft of cigars is beyond our imagination and crucial at the foundation, at the core of premium cigars. And it's fabulous to see that the whole idea of inclusion and equality is coming more to the forefront. And not only that, we have to talk about it and make it a point, but that it just feels natural, if you know what I mean. That's something I often think about when it comes to these discussions with gender equality and women entering a very male-dominated industry or segment. That I think the best we can achieve is that most naturally and organically we all feel the same and we all have our place, and it's the most logical and natural thing in the world. At least that's how I think about it. How does that feel for you, and how did you approach that in the first place?
I look at it like this, we've always been here, right? We're always
Absolutely.
we're always gonna be here. I think there wasn't a clear depiction of what it would look like when a woman smokes a cigar and what it looks like when she gets with her sisters to smoke cigars. I think what you're seeing more now is that fellowship, women creating spaces on the backs of the type of experiences that they want to have, which, probably spun off of maybe the way women were treated when we used to go to cigar lounges and still sometimes somewhere, right? So if women don't feel comfortable, safe, seen, then we don't quit. We just create our own space. And I think that's what you're seeing. I know that I smoke a certain way. Me and my, my shout out to my SoCal smokers, we get together and it's fellowship first, cigars second. If you follow me, then we have a good time. We bring our boom boxes, we order food, get our drinks, we find a very, visibly pleasing place to smoke, and we chit chat and laugh. And sometimes it turns into a 90s R&B karaoke session, but we create that space. And I think that's more or less what you're gonna see moving forward.
I like the fact that you mention the ambience and the atmosphere, and that it has to be welcoming and suitable for women to feel comfortable and at home as well. Just out of curiosity, where do you feel cigar lounges have always fallen short of creating a space where women, just as much as all the men frequenting it, feel comfortable, feel safe, and feel at home? Is that more on a personal level and based on the conversations that you would have, or the people who are there, or is it also in the design of the space, the way the lounge is laid out, the lighting, the music, maybe?
Look, I mean, people can, everybody has their thing. You want to go to a cigar bar, you want to go to a cigar lounge, do you want to turn up, do you want a quiet place to smoke? I think people had to get used to different energies coexisting, and it's been a rocky road. I mean, every cigar lounge isn't gonna be for me, and I'm gonna say it's probably not gonna be for anybody watching either. I'm not a lounge smoker. Okay, like, well, 90% of my photos, I'm outside. I want to sit. I also live in LA, so I can afford to do that. But if I'm in a lounge, I'm usually outside. I want to go where it feels like Cheers. I want to go where people know my name or I know their name. I want to walk in and say, "Hey, Charles." I mean, that's just me, right? Like that's it. I want to walk in there and it feel like love, no matter how many small compartments are in that one space. And I do not patron places that do not align with the type of experience I want to have. The same way that you're not going to go to a lounge who doesn't have cigars that you want to smoke. It's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be always the topic of conversation, but sometimes it gets a little touchy. I don't want to have separate conversations about why I'm smoking cigars, right? Like, let's just have a regular conversation. Let's talk about the Magic. Let's sit here smoking, watch, the Steelers play, or, the Cowboys get beat. I don't know, like, whatever that is, I want to join the conversation as it's happening. I don't want you to create another conversation specifically for me. And I think that sometimes when we walk into a space, the conversation changes, the energy changes, the type of cigars you would hand someone else changes. And I don't think that's what we're asking for.
And Ben, that is exactly what I meant earlier when I said, ideally it should feel natural and organic, and it should be self-explanatory, right? That women are treated equally and respected equally, and also what you said. I like the fact that taste profiles do not belong into stereotype buckets. I've experienced that myself so often in the hospitality world when I was still working as a bartender. When you have a couple sitting at the table and you get it the order as a bartender preparing the drinks, and one is like a pina colada and the other one is an old fashioned, the amount of stereotypical thinking and people believing that yeah, she's drinking the sweet creamy stuff and the guy is having the proper drink, right, like a heavy old fashioned boozy
Well,
spirits.
not me, Reinhard. I'm from Kentucky.
And
Okay,
that's
I want
always
my bourbon
bullshit.
straight. No, give it to me straight.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's utter bullshit, and it just doesn't work that way. And it's been fascinating to me to see the number of ladies enjoying a heavily peated single malt Scotch neat, and then the guy sitting next to her, he's ordering a pina colada maybe or a cosmopolitan, and that's all fine and dandy. So these stereotypes and these putting things into buckets just to make them easier to digest or think about for ourselves is it's just utter BS, and it never works that way. And the more we can get away from that, the better it is. And that's why I just wanted to reaffirm that point that you made. It should feel natural and just organic and normal that we treat people equally. And ladies are such an important and integral part of the cigar community, like men, and it should be a given. But we know that still too often it is not. And initiatives like yours and content that you create and that you put forth, I feel is very, very encouraging for other ladies who enjoy cigars to be more vocal and adamant about the fact that you love cigars too, just like everybody else. And it's the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I didn't set out to do anything special per se, but to know me is to know that my ministry is service, right? How can I exist in this space? How long can I exist in a space when there's no one that looks like me, right? I can, right? I am a guy's girl. I like all those things. But the way my experiences have been and are set up, I want to see more of that because I want to do, right, more of that. There's only so many things, like, my friend Ken is going to allow me to do, right? There are limitations to our friendship, right? And so, when I want to do certain things or women want to get together and do whatever we do, we want to be free to do that without criticism or without it having always to be a conversation. If there are men and women in this industry, we should be able to exist the same.
Absolutely.
We're humans, right? Like we smoke the same. I want to be able to hand, one of my home guys on here a cigar and be like, hey, you should try that. Like this is fantastic. And it not feel like a stigma. Guys aren't the only person to pass out cigars. I do it too.
Ben, how do you personally think that we can all do a better job in, on the one hand, being vocal and outspoken about the fact that we have to be more welcoming to ladies in the global cigar family, but at the same time, just make it a normal thing that almost doesn't have to be spoken about, if that makes sense. Because I find that not easy to balance, right? At the one thing you want to be vocal about it, but at the other hand, you should just treat it normally and naturally without making too much of a fuzz about it.
It's very simple, Reinhard. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And I know that it's old school. I am probably 75 in my soul, right? My soul is old. But
I'm right there with you.
But I feel like I could be a proven testimony that what you see is what you get, right? If I walk into a room and I want to be treated a certain way, then I have to treat somebody else a certain way. If I want to be greeted with love, I'm going to show up and I'm going to greet people with love. If I want to, all of those things apply in this space the same way that they do any other space. That's it. That's it. I know sometimes people struggle with that, but it is no different. You know what I mean? Like and every time you see the same
Amen.
people, they respond to you in the same way that you give. I believe that. Some people don't. I do. Because I know that when I show up in a room and I'm like, hey, whatever, like they respond back to me that way. If I walk into a lounge, if I go to B cut and I'm like, Taz, what's up? Because you almost never see Taz. You know, it's love. You have to give what you want to receive. That's it. Anything outside of that is extra.
I couldn't agree more with you. How has your own perception about cigars and the industry changed over the years? At the beginning, you were a cigar lover. You started to get into it a bit more, and over the years, you've become an integral part of the industry, not on the manufacturing or retailing side, but as an avid communicator, as a content creator, as a host of events, and building those communities. During that process, how has your own perception changed about cigars and the industry?
I don't know if it's changed as much as it's evolved, right? You know, what I smoke is different. What I'm open to smoking is open. When I first started, I was Dominican down, right? Like, because that's what I was introduced to. That's where I started. And eventually, you know, started trying some new stuff. I think that it's been great. I mean, it can be great. You know, you get new cigars, you meet new people, you get to experience life in spaces with people in their space, and you get to understand how other people consume products. You get to understand how retailers sell it or don't. You get to understand how you get to influence someone's buying decision. You know, everybody has friends or a friend who gives them cigars all the time and gives them something that either elevates or takes away from their palate. Like those things I've seen move forward, at least for me, you know, and I hope to do the same for someone else. So that's always nice, like sharing. The sharing part has been great.
And what about your perception of the industry as a whole? I mean, that's something that I realized myself as well. Is
What do you
as a
mean?
consumer and as an enthusiast, you know, you have a certain idea of the product and the people behind it, and then once you become a part of the industry, you know, you start to peek behind the curtains and you see what's underneath, which is not only very interesting, but it's revealing in both positive and negative aspects, I think. But it's just fascinating to have that other lens as well. And I feel like you have a very holistic view of the industry and the people therein.
I just, it's not always pretty. You know, I'm a consumer, but I'm also a brand content curator. So, you know, having to smoke as a consumer, but also smoke for work, getting clients and that type of thing, the conversation is usually really different. I'm not born into the tobacco industry, right? So having to understand how to navigate how family-owned businesses do things was a little bit of a learning curve, right? In one retrospect, I'm from the South. I understand the camaraderie. I understand the pride. I understand the level of integrity that some of these people have for what they do. But then there's the business side. You know, they hire in-house. You know, the whole family work there. You know, I'm an outsider. Right? I'm an outsider, 100%. But being able to learn how to appeal to them in a way where we can share marketing responsibility in order to move the needle has been great, but it's also a lot of work because you're fighting, not really fighting, but you're pushing against like a seesaw, right? It's this is what we do. This is what we always do. But there's this new thing. I don't want to do it. I don't know what that is, but now I got to do it. How do I do it? Like it's, and you show up with these ideas and these retrospects, these perspectives, and you have to keep going. And that's probably one of the most challenging things I've had to deal with. It's a little easier now, right? I'm a patient woman. I will wear you down. But in the beginning, it's like, hey, there's these ideas. Hey, there are these tools. Hey, like, did you look at it this way? I live in a free thinking space. You know, I work for myself. I live in LA. Like, anything is possible. But you work with people who aren't aware of that or don't know how to scale that. Those types of things get a little tough.
You mentioned the title that you've given yourself as a brand content curator, which I think is fabulous. Talk to us a little bit about what that actually means and what's behind that.
Honestly, it's just another form of marketing, right? There's Instagram and then there's social media. And so under the brand content umbrella, it's not just social media, but it's also strategic planning. It's also just regular marketing. There are brand activations. I don't run a huge company, but it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of work to be able to balance all of the things. It is all about the visual perception, how you can sell something, how you can appeal to a consumer, really getting in there and understanding why someone is spending their money, where they're spending their money, but not like on paper, like really hanging out with people, hanging out with brand owners, hanging out at events and really paying attention, or what they call reading the room, right? Those are the things that allow me to tell a story. Mm-hmm. Brand content curation is about telling a story. That's why there's a difference between Instagram and social media. Like, are you telling a story or you just posting pictures? And so it's a little bit more hands-on than, like, let's say, being an influencer or, just, being an active user on a platform.
Ben, you graduated from university with a dual degree in fashion and marketing. So you know that inside out. And here you are in the cigar industry, and we all love the industry for being so old-fashioned and so heavily focused on tradition, century-old knowledge being passed on from father to son and to daughter and mother to daughter and from generation to generation. And we've seen over and over again that in a lot of ways the industry still works differently than many of the more modern or contemporary industries like tech and everything that's happening now with digitalization, AI, you name it. Where do you see the charm in that, but also the challenges, and how do you think that the industry has to evolve in order to stay true to what it is at its core, but still adopt to what's happening out there in the 21st century?
All you have to do is hire the people that know. Listen, hire the people who flourish in this space that you want to see growth, right? It's like having a grandmother and explaining to her that there's a new way of doing something that she's done her entire life, right? And as soon as she tells you, she fusses at you. So told you to come on here, we're gonna do it the same way. And the only way to get her to budge is not to tell her, it's to show her, right? Seeing is believing, especially in a space that's super traditional, super generational, and has been around for some people 6 generations long. You can't tell them what they don't know. Like, they know what works, right? But then there's this new thing. So if you don't know, hire somebody that does. Myself, I'm always open. But there are other people, source the people needed to build the team and the momentum and the vision necessary to tackle the places that, we're smoking, or the consumers. You gotta get in there.
Where do you feel so far most of the brands or the companies are falling short in delivering meaningful content and creating marketing concepts that are relevant to today's consumer?
Engagement. It all comes down to engagement, right? That, and again, and I'll explain it later, but that's why there's a difference between using Instagram, being on Instagram and Facebook, and utilizing social media, right? I'll give you an example. Say during February, I host a Black History Month campaign, right? With a retail partner, Small Batch. When Small Batch posts something in my month with the cigars that they sell, when I repost it, the proper way would be to repost it and then add the link on top, right? Usually people on Instagram would just repost it, right? Because they think that the support lies in simply the visibility. When in actuality, the support is being able to minimize a consumer's time and process along the way. Do you want them to buy these cigars or not? Right? The only way to get them to buy the cigars is to make their process as seamless as possible. Otherwise, I got people in my DMs talking about, well, where can I get it? Well, where is it? Well, what's the name of the place? Well, what side of town is it on? Where I get the cigar? All day. I'm gonna put the link in here, and I'm gonna put a little hand that's gonna be like tap, tap, tap right here. So So because if you don't, then you lose a sale, right? And I'm pretty sure none of us is in the business of leaving money on the table, right? And so most of the time, brands and retailers miss the mark because they're not properly using social media in their full capacity. And if someone is posting something, or cigar lounges or brands are posting about their new stuff, and they're at a retailer, you got to engage with the people that are in the comments, right? Posting is not enough. It's cool, right? That's what it's for. But if you're not engaging with the people that are having the conversation, then they're not going to remember. Unless, it's coming from somebody that they revere, right? I'm no Matt Booth, right? So if anything he's selling, whatever he's saying, they're going to go look for it. But if you're a contractor like me, it works the same. Fashion, entertainment, makeup, people make millions of dollars. And it's not just the posting, it's how you curate your conversation. It's how you talk to the consumer. It's how you interact with the consumer. It's like a pyramid, right? There's a brand, there's a retailer, and there's a consumer. And that conversation has to be seamless enough that allows, let's say, everybody on here to follow the story until they made a purchase. But they can't do that. There's no links, there's no conversation. The more conversation you have, the more people see your stuff, the more clicks, all that thing. Sounds like a lot. I know that's probably too much work. I don't want to do that. But in my experience, it works. I've been able to, I'm not slinging 1 million cigars during everything that I do, but I tend to sell out of whatever it is that I'm selling. But that's part of it, making sure the consumer or your friends can have direct access. And I think that's part of where people kind of fall fall short. It's not just like pretty face, big smoke, big hair. It's like, well, what is it? Where is it? Who's it by? I think you'll enjoy this. And then it helps create the conversation and the clickbait that allows people to buy whatever they're going to buy from who they want to buy it from.
Do you think part of that discrepancy is because the industry for such a long time has always championed the brick and mortar and the personal interaction, and has been slow or not capable of taking that transition into the digital world and taking some of those touch points and some of the engagement that you can have in a lounge on the retail front in a brick and mortar location and actually take that to the online world?
I mean, I think in the beginning it was tough for everybody. A lot of brick and mortar owners are a little older. Tech is can be difficult. It's time consuming. I can spend all day on my phone, on my laptop, creating content, creating copy. Then you take the pictures, and then you gotta edit the pictures, and then like it's a full-time job. And so some people don't have the time, and then other people don't understand that vision and creativity is gonna be, it's only part of the saving grace, right? And if you can't do it, and it's okay, because sometimes some things I don't know how to do. I have to go down a rabbit hole and learn new things too. I'm not just pulling this out of my back pocket. There's what I know and understand, and then there are things that I have to seek knowledge of and seek the experience in order to execute it. And if you can't do that, because everybody has limitations, right? Excel and graphic design are not my ministries. Like I gotta outsource the help, right? But you gotta be able to do one or the other. And if you don't do one or the other, then you shouldn't complain if it looks like brands aren't supporting brick and mortars and brand owners are upset if their cigars got a little dust on it. Like, you got to meet somewhere in the middle. And if neither one of them are going to do the work, then you need to find somebody that does. Because somebody wants to smoke those cigars, okay? There's somebody waiting to light up. Are they smoking your stuff, or are they going to smoke something else? You need and want that customer. You got to do whatever it takes to get it.
We have Brian here from sunny California with a question or a comment for you, Brian.
Welcome. Hello. Good morning.
Hi, Brian.
Hey. I have a question, but Reinhard, first I wanted to mention we're going to be back in Napa, me and my girl, this weekend, and it was so great to meet you there, and I really appreciate you connecting us with Eric at Napa Cigars. So Bethany's doing a stand-up comedy show at this winery called Feast It Forward. And Eric might go. We've been messaging, and just shameless plug, if anybody's in California and you want to see some comedy and drink some wine, Feast It Forward.
That's fabulous, Brian. Very happy to hear. And I have to tell you that I have the fondest memories of the time we shared in Napa, the lounge that we hosted together upstairs at Napa Cigars, and your wonderful little plaque of Napa is sitting right next to my work table. So every day when I start my busy day, I look at it, and I'm right there together with all of you. I have the fondest memories of that. It means a lot.
We were struggling so hard. I mean, it's just a silly souvenir. I mean, it's just like the silliest thing, but I mean, at least it's a memory of Napa, and
it certainly is, and I love it every day.
Well, it's so great to meet you, Ben. We haven't met. We're both in California, so I have a memory, which I should thank you for. So I don't know. A couple of years ago, I had gotten some booster vaccine, and it was the lounge, and I didn't want to miss it. But I always react. I get these huge reactions, and so I was like, I had fever and chills, and so I'm lying in bed, my video's off, and I'm watching the lounge. And you and I had a nice chat. We were in the chat, going back and forth. I think we talked about your Minnie Mouse mug. So I appreciate that. Thank you for getting me through that. It was a rough. We really enjoyed the conversation. Anyway, at that time, you had mentioned Cigar Sanctuary. I'm sorry, Jose. I'm naming names. I actually can walk there, which is super convenient. I want to love it. You had mentioned that you enjoy going there. I've had a tough time there, so I'm curious. I mean, for me, one thing really is just the level of conversation. I mean, shout out to everybody here too. By the way, I was going to say this last week because of my last experience at Cigar Sanctuary. This is an elevated conversation. You know, when I go there, people are not so informed about the industry and about the cigars. There's a lot of misinformation. And I don't know if it's because it's international, this situation, but this conversation is so much more enjoyable. I go there, maybe it's a Los Angeles problem. We're talking about cars, gotta talk a lot about cars, you know, and so here's my situation too that kind of really rubbed me the wrong way last time. I've never seen another woman there smoking. I've been there, I don't know, 4 or 5 times at least. Maybe retail, maybe in and out with a guy. And you mentioned that you go there, and I was going to bring my friend there, Meredith, and I don't know. So when that's the situation, and when you're there, especially last time, my experience was the conversation among some of these guys can get terrible and offensive. It's this locker room talk thing that, so I don't know. I guess my question is, when the maybe as things progress and things are getting better, I think, I don't know, when the conversation changes, when maybe you're present and people are being respectful and maybe, being more kind about the way that they're speaking, how important do you think it is for that conversation to change? It's like speeding when there's no cops around. There's no cops around. I don't know. I don't like it. I think that we should be smart about what we say at all times and not just when certain people are present. I don't know. Does that question make sense?
I mean, listen, one thing I've learned is that you cannot threaten someone's freedom of speech. Okay, that is there. Look, if I go, I sit outside. I tend to mind my own business. But I think you should be able to talk about whatever you want as long as you're not being super disrespectful, right? Like, everybody has their opinion, right? But also too, act accordingly when you are in the presence of a lady, right? That's how I feel about it. But it does tend to change. I've heard guys say, yeah, when we come in, it doesn't feel the same, and temperature's different, and like, please feel free, keep talking, because I like cars too. I might lean over and be like, hey, I like a little 89, box Chevy myself. Like, I might join in on the conversation. Keep it the same. But if it's not what you like, if people aren't aligning with what you care about, then either you scoot your chair down a little further on the other side of the Indian, or might have to smoke in the car on the way home. Not somewhere else to smoke, because you can't please everybody. That's why, 1, I don't smoke in lounges often, and 2, if I do, it's very few places that I'll go. You just kind of got to let people be who they're going to be. Yeah. It's okay. You don't have to go to Cigar Sanctuary. You can meet me at V-Cut next time. I'll meet you at V-Cut.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Good plan. Thanks. Cheers.
Cheers.
Brian, many thanks. Great thoughts there, and great point. Ben, a question from the audience for you regarding Sistas and Smoke and the evolution of your platform, your channel, your content. Where do you see yourself headed in the next 5 years, and what do you think are the next steps moving forward with Sistas and Smoke?
5 years. I can barely see Friday. Look, this is a one day at a time thing, right? Like I've learned that I have my timing, right? And then there's industry timing. And it just so happens that 4 years later, that timing is kind of lining up around at the same. I think I had to wait until the part of the industry understood a little bit about what I do, whether it was with me or not. I had to wait. There was a lot of no's, a lot of, I don't know, and a lot of ROI talk, and a lot of fear there, a lot of not knowing, but also too, I like it, but my budget's already allocated. Like, so for me, I work 6 months at a time, right? I put together initiatives that I want to execute, and I keep my head down and I stick to it. Eventually, maybe, I've only thought about going in-house one time. But eventually, I would love to work in-house on a team, on a marketing team, where we can allocate budget and resources to building out a proper plan that is a little bit more consumer-based or consumer forward and brand-based. There are other things to do or other elements that can be involved with cutting lights and, cigar weeks and people like, oh, it's the same thing every time. Not all the time, right? But you're always going to have those things. It's just how do we maximize that experience? And those are the things that I want to be able to do. Maximize that experience for the consumer by way of another brand. Because eventually I'm not going to be able to do it alone anymore. The bigger the industry gets, the more cigars there are to smoke, and the more consumers there are. I'm not going to be able to do it at this capacity. I'm going to either have to collaborate with a brand specifically, or I'm going to have to grow. So, but until then, it's the end of the year. I'm prepping for the top of the year. I do my Black History Month with Small Batch, and then I do Women's History Month, usually with Boveda. And then I have, the Sisters and Smoke brunch. And, that stuff takes up a lot of time. Production, it's production. It's a lot of things. Okay. My to-do list has a to-do list. So it's 6 months at a time, and hopefully the women that are putting themselves out there, we're able to get together and create magic. That's what I love. Get out there, create magic, and you get to see other people flourish. And that, like I said, that's my love. Like, my ministry is service. If I can assist someone, and if I can show someone else how awesome somebody else is, like, you guys been missing out. Okay, like, hey, you need to pay attention. Then those are the types of things and excitement that I want to give someone else. So hopefully.
Speaking about that experience part, what are some of the best practices, or what are some of the things that you are specifically looking for when you go to those sorts of events, or when you see content other people and brands are curating and creating? What's some of the stuff that you want to see there in order for it to feel different and relevant compared to what you said, like just another cut and light or just another gathering?
I mean, I like to have a good time, right? There's some things that I don't think are a good time. Like, I don't want to go somewhere inside of a conference room and sit at, circle tables and smoke cigars that don't taste good and it's smoky, right? Like, I don't want to spend a lot of money sitting at conference tables. So I'll cross that off my list. I also don't desire to just go somewhere just to smoke with somebody. I want to go where there's music. Like, it's experience first, then cigars for me, right? That's why I'm always at Pro Cigar. That's why I'm always in Houston. I want to go to a place where we have a good time and we just happen to be smoking. Is there music? Are we dancing? Is there laughing? Right? It's got to feel good, and the people that I smoke with need to be as warm, equally as warm or more, right? Like, who I smoke with has to be a reflection of me in some facet. So when I go, that's what I'm looking for, right?
And on a brand level, brands and brand representatives, they also always try to, what you said earlier, is to tell the story and to find an environment or an opportunity to relay the message of what the brand is all about and why it's different to some of the others. And it's probably tough to find a way to offer both at the same time: the experience part that you just mentioned, having a good time, music, dancing, and the fun aspect of it, but then the educational component at the same time.
It's not hard. It's not hard. I think, listen, I do things backwards, right? I figure out what type of experience I want to have, right? But I mean, I already know what that is. Y'all see that all the time for me. And I think about what things are associated with that type of good time. And that list of things that are associated with that laughter, the dancing, the fellowship, the conversation. I figure out what those things are and I execute that, right? It's gotta be more than showing up, buying a 3-for-1 or, and all that. Like, well, what else is there? Do we got our game shirts on? Like, are we, is there, what do they call it? A fantasy football going? Like, where's the experience in it? And so you just have to figure out what that looks like. Are we dressed in our Sunday fun day? So say, for instance, Sisters and Smoke Brunch, I had it in August. And there were two things that was really important to me, right? One, I wanted it to be as similar to the type of smoke experience that I have with my girlfriends, right? When we get together and Instagram gets to see how we get down, that's what I wanted to look like. Because there were going to be people there that I'd never met before. And then two, I wanted it to feel like Sunday dinner at grandmother's house, right? I know that sounds really crazy. But at my grandmother's house, we'd get together, we would sit down together. We would eat, we would pass the food, we would laugh, we would conversations, no phones at the table. I mean, well, now there gotta be a couple phones because, I want you to take pictures of, cigars and whatnot. But I want more talking. I want to look out and see people laughing. I want to look out and see people cheersing, right? It sounds very, I don't know, plain, but when you stand there and you see people engage in a way, then you know that whatever they're smoking, they're tapped in. Because everybody at my event got 3 premium women-led brands. They got both of the stuff, got it really cute on the table, kind of like grandma's table, the table placement and all that. It come in, oh my God, wow, you want to invoke emotion. Because if you don't set the tone, then you miss out on a consumer paying attention enough to want to buy that cigar again after the fact. What is that experience? What are they going to do when they leave? Are they going to tell you, like 2 out of 3 of these cigars were fantastic. You know, you want them to leave and say, that so-and-so, I bought that. Like, you know, like that's the ROI. When they leave, so-and-so and so-and-so stick was so good. Can I have another one? Like before they leave? What you think? I'm like, I had no more. I mean, I gave them all out. But even if I did, they came back and said, hey, I bought a 5-pack, or I went back and I tried the other stick, or now I'm smoking a couple more sticks from that brand. But that has less to do with the cigar and more about the experience. People are always gonna buy cigars, but they're gonna buy your cigar, right? Like, what are they gonna associate buying that cigar with? And, you know, that's usually my focus. What does it feel like? And then after that, usually, you know, the dominoes fall where they may.
Mhm. We had a wonderful question from Michelle. She's watching on Facebook. She's following the live stream. Cigars with M. Big shout out to her. Michelle was curious, Ben, for the next generation of creators in the cigar industry, what advice would you give them to be successful and have an impact?
I believe that you can't impact the culture without working with the culture, right? I mean, I've been fortunate enough to come and go as I please, but I also come and go where the love is. I come and go where the good cigar experiences are. And when you do that and you become invested in not just the cigar, you become invested in the lifestyle. You become invested in that person and that brand's culture. You become invested in the how. And when you dig in, then the conversation flows. You retaining the information necessary to communicate as an influencer, as a content curator becomes a little bit more seamless. I'm a little quick with it, right? I can come up with things off the top of my head, but my past says that I'm a creative first, but I'm a process and procedure woman, right? Like everything has a place. Like I'm paying attention to everything. You say something and I think it's great, I'm writing it down. Like it's being able to weave in that experience that helps you effectively communicate whatever it is that you think that the consumer needs to know. So you got to be present, out of sight, out of mind, right? People can read that. Like not every photo has to be like super deep, but you got to be able to communicate what it is. Like you got to talk to somebody, not at somebody. You know what I mean? Kind of the same thing. But go for it. You know, pictures are cool. You know, my friends, listen, they're probably tired of me. They're tired of me because take pictures when the sun is out. You know, make sure your photos are crisp. Sounds crazy, but when people, one of the things that they say is, "Oh, your pictures are always great," but I'm like, look, ain't no filters there. You're gonna get this light. If the light is here, this is where I'm taking the photo. You know, everything is a brand forward. Like, yes, it's a great photo, but am I telling a story? If there was no copy, would I be able to entice you to buy something or try something with this photo alone? And that has to, in my opinion, that has to be one of the top 3 things that you think about. Not just taking the photo. Like, take a photo and it's blurry and it's crooked and all I can see is your thumb. Like, I did the whole thing with the whole frame. You know, and it works. I mean, they do it. Cigar industry is a cigar industry, but it's the same in makeup, same in entertainment. It's the same in fashion, same model. It's no different.
And kind of a great follow-up question on that from Joshua, also over on Facebook, is what do you think is the best way to get more younger people and more younger cigar enthusiasts interested in the culture?
I mean, are they already? Are they like non-smokers, or are they just kind of dipping in? I mean, people smoke based on their affiliation with someone, right? You smoke cigars based on the company that you keep. I would have never picked up a cigar if I had not been with Ken. Even when I think back to that moment, if you remove that one moment in time, I don't know anyone else that smoked cigars at the time. And even now, I probably wouldn't know half the people had I not. So you gotta put them in an environment that encourages not just the cigar smoking, but the experience. Take them with you. Call your friend. Make it a good time. And make sure the conversation is open. Because if you give them something they don't like, they should be able to like, you know what? It's not really my thing. I'm not gonna be like, hey, you know what? What didn't you like about it? Let me try this. It's on me. You want to keep them encouraged. If they want to try, you got to keep them encouraged. But also, don't be handing somebody nothing crazy. Like, hand them, there are cigars that are middle of the road, no matter what you like or what you hate. You're also not going to know that unless you smoke enough. But there are some cigars that everybody is going to enjoy. Find what those are and give them those. Don't just give them the sticks that you like, right? Because everybody's palate is different.
I think that in general is an important aspect when you create content, is that you have your audience in mind, and it's not just about what you like, but also what can you offer to other people that they can cling on to, something that they can reference to, or that is important and meaningful to them. Another analogy,
everything I post, I don't jump for joy, right? Like, there are some cigars that I think you could probably tell that I either smoke all the time or I absolutely like. And if it's something that I'm not necessarily excited about, but I know that someone else is going to enjoy it, I'm going to say, hey, listen, like, you should probably try this if you like X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? If I'm watching what you're smoking, I'm like, okay, this right here, this is for you. This is not for me, but this is for you. You know what I mean? You got to keep that open mind.
We had some great questions from Albert, who's here with us at the lounge. So, Albert, please chime right in. I'd love to hear your questions, and I would love for you to join us here. And
hi, Albert.
Hey, hi Ben, and Reinhard. Always a pleasure. I mean, well,
it's all ours.
I'm joining you guys from Tenerife Island, beautiful holiday spot. I couldn't miss this because I'm always so curious how women approach cigar smoking in general. I'm an admin of Facebook group with cigar smokers, and I'm a corporate marketer myself. For many years, building social communities and online communities, and a couple of things, and they're not really related. I'm not going to dive in deep and everything. So I have really two questions. So one question is actually for both you, Ben and Reinhard, because you guys quite different in personalities, although we share the same passion. So what would be your best party or your best cigar experience? I will start with this question. Based on the answer, I have a follow-up question. Reinhard, that question already from the chat.
It's no secret. It's no secret that Reinhard already knows where I'm going, right? Pro Cigar is by far the best smoke experience I've ever had. I do not miss, okay, unless I'm sick or dying. I am in Santiago, Dominican Republic every February, third week of the month. And part of that has to do with the great humans that run the factories down there, right? And the other part is they literally put their heart and soul into every experience. When you walk in, you're hit with, it's like beautiful lights, the floor, the table arrangements, the cultural inspired.
Oh yeah, we know how to throw the parties. Yeah.
listen, you know, they're throwing parties at the monument, which by the way, they don't let no one else do. It's it is
Awesome.
you know, they raise money. It literally hits all the things. Everybody's dressed, everybody's smoking good, you know, you make new friends. They do it really, really, really well. And you get to learn a lot. You know, I need to learn something, right? And every experience you walk away with not just new cigars to smoke and new fabulous cigar boxes that are really hard to leave behind when your luggage is full, but like, you understand the process. And I don't care how many times I go to a factory, there's always something new, or they're growing something new, or they want to be the first to grow this wrapper in this space. Like, you get to understand a lot, and you get to have fun. Like, they work hard and they party hard. I love it.
Oh yeah, that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Mhm.
Well, then I'll follow up with a second question. So, well, given the fact that you already embedded in, tobacco industry as, personality, not yet a brand, but personality for sure, giving the followers and everything. But must be some personalities in industry and in general, great personalities that inspired you. And I'm just curious to learn, personally, coming from marketing background, like, Guy Kawasaki or Gilvey, some personalities from marketing world, but there are some other personalities from other, industries. So what inspired you? I'm still inspired.
On the brand side, you know, I'm a huge fan of Neca Reyes and Raquel Quesada. I love them. They exude this level of femininity while smoking that I had never seen before. But see, again, it's a like-minded type of thing, right? Um, and they work hard. They're fucking bosses. They're amazing just at what they do in a day. I guess, like, on the influencer space, Delicia for Cigar Vixen, she's pretty much, I'm gonna go on the limb. If I'm wrong, don't shoot me. But she was one of the first to be able to utilize a social platform as in YouTube to engage consumers' buying habits and behaviors. Now, granted, like, a lot of stuff you can't do on YouTube anymore, right? But
Oh yeah.
she has such a huge following by showing consumers not just the things that she smokes, but the lifestyle in which it lives. And I was like, oh, this is so great. So, I met her for the first time. I was fangirling for a second, like, oh my God, she's great. And she's really nice. And she still holds a really big stock in that space. I also was a fan of Geraldine, Naked Cigar. Her photos were always so vibrant. She's so feminine. The way that she smoked allowed me to know that, like, I could sit pretty too, right? Like, I could put on cute clothes. I don't have to worry about, them stinking. Wear them anyway. That's what they're for, right? You got to wash the machine. She's gorgeous. She's a great time. But what I learned from her was that without her ever saying a word, she does not talk. Okay, she's not talking any of her content, but her photos communicate in a way that you don't need any words. She didn't need any, and I was like, wow, like, it's great. She's the one I was like, okay, every time she take a photo, the light is hitting her right. It's like, okay, I'm like, okay, note to self. So I mean, and that was very early on, but now you got people who have really good information, like Moments with Michelle. And you got people who do events that I also now have to tap into. Like I said, her aficionado, she smokes too, and the way that she communicated sisterhood in the space was great. And then you got Sweet Habana and Chrissy out of Houston. Houston's a completely different animal in itself as far as cigar community is concerned. And so those are more lifestyle types of things. And I look up to them because they're consistent, and they don't apologize for how they show up in that space, but they're graceful, And so, we all kind of make sure we hold each other accountable now. We're all pretty much friends. So, it worked out. It's great.
This actually sounds amazing. Well, Cigar Vixen is a legend in her own department, hitting so many platforms, even trying, Amazon, well, she really, tried so many, territories that nobody else explored before. So, as content creator as well, so yeah, kudos to her, for sure. All that said, I'm still wondering, is there a particular brand that you would love to partner with? Is this something like, if they would drop an offer tomorrow and you would say, you know what, forget the money?
Did you say forget the money?
Yeah. For the love of the smoke.
Let me tell you something. Either I'm going to do something out of the kindness of my heart and the fluidity of the moment, or there is always a price or a negotiation, like a barter system. There has to be a thing. But brand wise, I
tough one. I'm sorry. No, it's just.
I mean, to be honest, I feel like I might be on the cusp of doing that now, right? With the cis brunch, right? So eventually I want to work with all of the women in the industry, right? But oh God, I don't know. I don't know. I have such a contractor mindset that I don't know if I'm capable of just picking one, right? One reason is because I know that working in one space could potentially pigeonhole me, right? Because
Easily.
you got people have their opinions about a certain brand, or they have an experience, or they don't like some, like, it gets really, really, really tricky. But if I could work in a collaborative space, that would be more ideal for me. I got a lot of love to give, right? I got a lot of content to give, got a lot of experiences to sprinkle.
That's a great question. It was a tricky question. It was almost like a trap question, to be honest. Because every content creator, if they mention one brand, then they get themselves in a little trap. And that's a great answer, to be honest. And I apologize. I didn't consult with Reinhard. Dropping this question.
No, it's
that's a great one.
This is an open
forum. I got so much respect for now. So.
No, it's okay. I mean, you know what? It's something to think about, right? I can't probably. I'm not gonna say who it was, but I almost went in house one time, and I got recommended for a position where I would have been able to manage 8 of their events, and kind of that also would, the activations and being able to do content and all those kinds of things. But the only reason why I ever thought about working with that company was because I love and adore the people that work there. I loved their energy. We were already friends. And I was like, what? I need to be a part of this team. I don't know if it was It wasn't the
Culture,
brand.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't the brand. It was the humans, right?
Yeah.
And I was grateful that someone even thought that I would fit into that culture because I never saw it coming. But it would have to be, I'm at that stage in my life where I'm not about the money grab. I want to work with people who are creative, have vision, they're professionally flexible, right? And like I said, like create magic. So if it's a human thing, then I'm down.
Well, you could just said, Drew Estate, because your conversation started with them.
What'd you say?
Just
What,
kidding.
what'd you say?
Drew Estate.
What,
Drew Estate.
what about Drew Estate?
Well, your conversation started, you mentioned Drew Estate in the beginning that you smoked, weird cigar. So,
Oh,
I
that
think
that
like for
that
first
that was
impression.
that was in 2010. Okay? That was 13 years ago.
Yeah, their marketing is great. Really, they're one of the companies that, actually nailed the marketing. Well, it started with marketing and then actually, cigars kind of, kicked in, very, very nicely for them. Look, I mean, I have to, pass it on, to Reinhard, back to Reinhard, but, absolutely, phenomenal answers. Really, really, really good, more than I expected. And I'm already following, your Instagram. So,
Thank
I
you.
just gonna drink, a nice Kuba to your health and your brand and that your story will go,
Cheers.
long way in tobacco industry.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Albert, many thanks for the wonderful question. Let me just say I'm incredibly jealous for your backdrop and your whereabouts, enjoying that beautiful cigar and joining us today.
See in the background, a couple of nice hotels, and I'm not gonna, spoil anything, but it's just a massive pool, down
That's very
down
nice.
there anyway.
Very nice. Hi, Maddie.
Albert, let me briefly throw one of the questions that I asked earlier back at you, because you have such a strong marketing background as well. As a consumer and a cigar enthusiast, what are some of the things that you would love to see from cigar brands or retailers and people in the industry to elevate their marketing game and become better at the engagement and approaching their consumer base?
Oh, good question and very simple answer. Actually, I'm gonna second what Ben said. What all they need to do, they just need to put the money, in the same bucket. I don't know, open a escrow bank account or whatever, and hire a proper marketing agency, right? Or an agency that knows what they're doing, or at least individually start hiring people that they know current marketing, methodologies and strategies. Because this is what corporates are doing. And they cost more. They people not cheap, but yeah.
Let me ask you a question, right? Because, what I've found is that, and this is just my experience, what I found is that, when I work with a little bit of a larger company, they hire their marketing team, they have their marketing, this, that, and third. But usually the people that they hire don't smoke, right? They go to work and they go home, right? And I always
David Davidoff, mistake.
And I and I feel like, they missed the mark because the things that they're putting together are here, right? And how do you impact
No deep
the culture?
diving.
How do you impact the culture that you don't participate in? Like or you don't reach in the consumer pool or the content pool and find somebody who can communicate that, oh, by the way, these trends are happening. These are the things that are happening in the Midwest. And oh my God, like, have you been to Texas? They do this and do that. This is what, like, if a brand doesn't have someone that isn't just sitting at the desk and they're not familiar with the people on the ground, I find it they're not as successful as someone that does, right?
Of course.
So it's like hire the marketing company, but add to that find somebody. Because if don't nobody smoke, it becomes really hard.
It's a great question, and again, short answer. So, from a history point of view, in marketing, even before digital marketing kicked in, roughly 15 years ago, and then picked up. The large companies, they realize that if they hire large agency, they're gonna promote their brand globally. So they gave their money and hope for the best. And if we hired, luckily something like Ogilvy, they came up with a great story without even knowing the industry that well. Or did they? No, Ogilvy did insane amount of research. Majority of money in initial stage, because usually that multiple stages, initial stage went to research the audiences, research the markets, and it's just all a massive amount of research. So small companies can't afford that. So they have to, cut the corner or do a little bit guerrilla style. They have to go to people who actually know the industry very well, real aficionados with marketing knowledge, deep marketing knowledge. So then they can nail, it. Otherwise, well, we have to come up with the big bucks, and hire someone who can do, that research, massive research.
It's a lot of research. I agree.
Oh,
Maddie,
yeah.
did I see your hand up?
Just a quick follow-up, Ben, before we hand over the mic to Maddie, both for you and Albert. Do you also think, though, that there could be a certain value in specifically hiring people who come from outside of the cigar industry, because they look at it with a fresh set of eyes and they probably bring in different inspiration and don't do things the exact same way the industry has done them for the past 10, 20, 30 odd years? Do you know where I'm trying to get to?
Sure.
With my question?
Sure, but that's what the word collaboration is for, right? like let's, not to sound like a dick, but but that's what it is. Hire your people, right? But you need one person that can listen to the corporate information, right? Like, that's going to give you the corporate guidelines for the things they can and cannot do, for that's going to put together, all of the things that the company wants to communicate. But then you also need to reach in your front pocket with someone who's going to help you carry out that message, who's going to sprinkle a little razzle dazzle on your marketing plan. Because if it's just marketing and it's just magazines, then you're missing out on a part of the consumer base that's not reading magazines, and it's probably not looking at television, or that's probably not going to your cigar weeks. You have to really put everything on the table and say, who is best to connect the dots on the ground? It has to be, you have to find somebody to do that. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, it frustrates me when I have to work with people who are committed to not understanding or not learning that, well, if you're going to send me to Texas, or if you're going to go to Texas and we're going to work together, and then what happens is that you see that they could be the biggest company ever, but they know no one, right? Like, they know no one. And I think that's a fundamental and in-house issue that needs to be corrected. How do you work for a company, go somewhere to cover or to promote, and no one on that team knows anybody there, like by name or by face or by association? You need somebody that's going to get in there and say, hey, you know so-and-so? Do you know Jay Calvino? Hey, do you know Sean from Roma Craft? Hey, oh, the Drew Estate team. There's Jenny Land and Ryan and Ernie. Like, how do you get what you need in order to communicate with the consumer if you don't know who the players are?
Well, so, my answer is much shorter. But Ben, what you said is very true for a little bit smaller brands. It's very true. The emotional aspect that you bring some external individual that has knowledge in another market and was successful is essential, because they know some in-house, or they found the niche, they found how to cut the corner, how to approach those audiences better. Absolutely agree with you. Well, in corporate environment, we have something slightly different. We follow a lot, like Pareto law. It's like 80-20. So a lot of people in marketing team is changing even more faster than in sales sometimes. Why? Because we always bring every year about 20% of people in-house from external markets, from other markets that they proven to be successful. We had hunt. We get those individuals, we absorb their ideas, we absorb their knowledge, and we see how we can apply to our marketing strategies. And if that works, it's fine. If not, we do pilot projects, to test those individuals if they actually can deliver and their ideas can deliver. So that would be my answer. So yes, you need to bring in outsiders, no questions asked. The ratio if you have a larger marketing team, 20% is fine. Sometimes if you have like three individuals, get contractors, successful contractors, once every 6 months, get their ideas, extracted. Be, the one that absorbs, and that's, I think, what the smaller companies can do.
1000%. 1000%.
Amen to that. Beautiful. Many thanks.
All right, Mari. Sorry for the delay.
Not at all. It's perfect.
No worries. Hi, Ben. Hi, Reinhard. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy to see you. So firstly, I wanted to say that I appreciate that you bring your authenticity, your passion, and your creative vision to the industry. It's a well-needed element. And women such as yourself, and I'd like to think that I am too, we take our own energy into a room versus reading to see how it is and then trying to gauge how the energy is. So my question basically is this: do you feel that presence of women such as yourself in the industry on social media has helped encourage and make women more confident into going into cigar lounges and smoking cigars?
Yes. I mean, I think in the beginning, there's always a small insecurity there, and I think, when women started seeing other women do it, or seeing other women smoke with other women, or seeing women buy certain cigars that are, not flavored or flavored, when you can see someone doing something different, then I 1000% think that you're inspired to elevate or to include a new behavior pattern in not just your space, but that space. I mean, I'm encouraged to do something different when I look out and I see your posts and beautiful hair, or, someone, is smoking something I've never smoked before. I'm like, okay, let me go to the lounge, and I don't go right in excited to find something that someone that looks like me is also smoking. Oh, I didn't know I could smoke that. Is that outside of my pay grade? Or is that outside my smoking grade? I don't know. Let's try it. Sometimes you don't know things and opportunity and experiences exist until you see them. And I think we do very well now in really driving that initiative forward.
No, I appreciate that, because I know that there's been an evolution that I know that we've seen in our lifetime, where even now, if you Google women and cigars, you usually see half naked women with a cigar. And I've had women approach me and say, like, well, is it okay to go in a lounge? Because what they visualize is a half naked woman, I don't know, licking a man's face while he's smoking a cigar, whatever they're visualizing. And I want to actually thank you very much for actually helping project a positive experience of, women being, intelligent, bringing something different to the conversation and actually exploring different cigars. I mean, we don't smoke the same thing, but I'd like to think that our palettes have a wider range. And I'd like to think, even though some people, I have heard commentary not directed towards me about how influencers don't really positively impact the cigar culture. But I would like to submit that not only do we bring something different to the conversation, but we help also encourage other people to step outside maybe their comfort zones and try something that they want to try in a safe environment. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. I mean, listen, there are two dirty words in this industry, right? One of them is influencer, and then the other one is inclusion, right? And in every other business, the influencer is saddled with an opportunity to move the needle forward. It comes down to how you do that, right? I think in this space specifically, I think the idea that a photo alone is the definition of influencers sometimes get a little misconstrued, get a little lost in what that is versus really tapping into the depth and the work that it takes. Because if you, I think everybody follows somebody that got great style, right? They go to Paris Fashion Week and they're walking the streets and they're doing all this beautiful visual content. But if you take the time to read what they're saying, right? Their job, an influencer's job, is to be able to move the needle for that particular brand's initiative. That is what it's for, right? That is what it means. If I go hey, what shirt is this? So what is skirt at? I'm saving it. And I'm saving it because they're communicating, they're pushing a brand, but they're also using the words, not just their face or body, right? So if people kind of add to, in this space, if they add a little bit more effort in their posting, then they'll see, or the industry will understand, that influencers are meant to help support your initiative. And I mean, that's my goal, right? I try my best to be in alignment with what someone's vision already is. What does it look like? Like I said, what does it look like to smoke a patina, right? What does it look like to smoke Lampert? What is it like? What is that lifestyle? What's associated with that lifestyle? And then you take that and you get to know the people, and then you it's a process. It's not just the photo.
Right. And maintaining your authenticity while you're doing it. You're being genuine, because sure. When you meet people in person versus Instagram, and they're two different people, it kind of completely deflates the whole purpose, right?
It happens.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you for everything you do. Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming, Maddie.
Maddie, thank you so much. Lovely to have you with us, and thanks for the wonderful comments and the questions. Over to Mace.
Oh, hey, Reinhard. Hey, Ben. Great to meet you, Ben.
Hey.
Avid follow over here, and yeah, again, I think we always have this convo every now and then, Reinhard. You sort of managed to pull it out of the bag and get these great guests on. It's been an amazing evening. Well, for me over here, it's been an amazing evening, but it's been a great conversation, especially hearing from that other side in terms of that marketing aspect, and just not the industry specific, like I'm a manufacturer, I'm a producer, but actually look, what can you do to actually improve and enhance the whole sort of cigar space. So this has been a great one. And I wanted to just come back onto that point about collaboration. And I always think like Nike, forgetting what they're doing in the industry and their stock prices and stuff, but they do a lot of great stuff in terms of collaborations. What are your thoughts on the cigar industry and the manufacturers doing more around collaborations, and how far can that go?
Collaborations with content curators,
well,
or collaborations
that's
with
Collaboration could be with celebrities, could be with other brands.
Brand attachment. What he means is called brand attachment. So yeah, attaching to another,
It's either.
famous individual or brand.
That's what I mean.
Sorry. Wow.
Now there's a mixture there, right? It's either you're looking at the collaboration with a celebrity, you've got Guy Fury, you've got that kind of collaboration on one end, but then you've got that co-branding, you've got that brand attachment, and sort of, is there more there? Is that something like that? Is that a gimmicky thing? Actually, look, it's had its time, it's not going to go far. Or is there actually is there a door that's slightly ajar and they got to get in there and actually do more?
How dare you? No. Look,
Tough ones today. Only tough.
I mean, honestly, I mean, okay, so cigar industry collaborations with celebrities and or athletes, right? It's kind of taboo.
Mhm.
And I think part of the reason why it's taboo is because before you see the when you see the collaboration, you're not necessarily affiliated with the fact that they smoked before the cigar, right? Or you're not familiar, you never really seen them do it. And so I think when that cigar comes out with someone that you're familiar with and you've never seen them really engage in that space, we get a little apprehensive, right? Oh, this is like now immediately it's like, oh, it's probably not good. It's probably like it's probably not great. It's probably not better than my $5 cigar, and sometimes it's not, right? And so I think really identifying who is about that culture, right? Who's about the culture, and then maybe collaborating with them, and not just because they have a big name and because they got a lot of money. I think sometimes that doesn't
Resonate.
it doesn't, exactly, thank you. It doesn't resonate the way that someone would like it to. There are people that I know smoke all the time, right? I mean, granted, I live in LA, you see people all the time, but like, man, smoking good stuff. Now, if you had a cigar, I would smoke it, right? But you never see that,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes the people that are making the decisions go after the people that are popular, not the people that are 10 toes down in this space that you see smoking other cigars. Now, listen, I hadn't smoked it, but I know for a fact that, Ocho Cinco smokes cigars, right? Like when I worked in the sports space, I see him all the time. I know for a fact that Dr. J smokes cigars. I know that Sid and everybody knows Steve smokes cigars. There's other people that do, that you can catch at any point in time, in a random moment. Everybody knows Jay-Z and all them people. And I wonder sometimes if there were collaborations with those people, would it translate better? And I think maybe it would. But as far as like people like me or retailers or brand on brand collaborations, I think that stuff works and you get the right people and it's the perfect synergy. I think it's all about, it's the synergy and then the blend, right? Like, are they really down here at the factory, smoking what Reinhard, what's it called when you just like smoke one piece of like the wrapper and then you only smoke the binder and you only smoke the filler? Like, yeah, like, are you really down here putting in the work? Are you rolling your sleeves up? Are you are you participating in the process? And I think that matters. And then you use all the things leading up to that cigar coming out. People normally only see the end, right? You only see that, Piven's cigar came out. You only see Guy's cigar when it's done. Like, what about the stuff before that? I want to see.
Yeah. What's he doing?
Like I want to see. Like, did you roll it wrong? Did you choke on the wrapper? Like, like I want to see I want to see you in the process, because I think that is how we as consumers would connect with that star. It's like you said, Nike, okay, Jordan, okay. Why are we still wearing Jordans? Because we saw him, oh, you playing the game in these shoes. You made me believe I can fly. Oh, my jump shot, whatever. Like, I can see him actively using and participating in that industry. And that makes us 4 generations later still continue to put our money there. And I think the same could be said for here if we could see the process.
So that's the biggest gap, that you're not so much against the collaboration. It's just the fact that it's always a 0 to 100, and here's a celeb, here's a cigar. How they got there is the blank that no one seems to be able to attach to.
Well, yeah, but see, again, like, I feel like that's the difference between Instagram and social media, right? I got, Ken has his own cigar now with Laura, and I tell him all the time, hey, he goes all the time. I want to see it. Where's the process? Like, what are you doing? What does it look like when you're sitting in the office with Manny and y'all smoking, 4 and 5 cigars? People want to see how you got there. Storytelling is always going to be storytelling. And if you show them that, if you let them in, you make them feel like they were walking with you down that hallway, or make them feel like they are your equal, then you're not gonna have a problem selling nothing. Like, they go, where the cigar at? You'll continue to buy it. It won't always be a one-off. So, that's what I think. I think I'm more apt to smoke a cigar if I can feel like I was a part of that process.
Then I guess last question is just when you look at the industry, and I know Reinhard and I have had these conversations, but just when you look at the brands out there now, and they're doing all this marketing, they're doing all this social outreach, and they're playing that acquisition game, get these customers, and then they got the customer.
Mm-hmm.
From that, there seems to be a gap in terms of, all right, we got them, they smoked our cigar. Yeah, great. For most of us, I like smoking different cigars as often as I can. So I'm never going to be a brand loyal customer. So I'm always going to be trying something new. I'm not going to be, I want to try as many cigars as I can. But what could brands do? Is there something, and fair enough, maybe you've thought of something and it's patented and trademarked, you don't want to talk about it, but is there something that brands could do that actually gets customers, I don't want to say hooked, that's like the wrong word, but just get customers bought in, loyal, buy that loyalty, get that loyalty? Is there something there? Is there a gap? Or is it kind of just what it is right now in terms of marketing and play the social game? Is there something more outside of what people have done to date that could actually get people?
Listen, I said it earlier, people buy first, I think, based on their affiliation with somebody, right? And so you got brand owners who are dope. Some of these brand owners are really, really dope, but you don't know that they're dope, right? Either you know or you don't know. And I would encourage brand owners to be their own face. I think sometimes they've been in this game so long that in walks social media, right? And they're like, I'm not doing that. Like, why? I've been here, I've done this, I've done that. There's these accolades, but the only people that know about these accolades are the people that you make cigars with, right? And so I think there are certain people like Robert Caldwell and Boofy and what's her name? And now, like, you see Raquel all the time, and you see Nerka all the time, and I don't know a person that doesn't love Indiana Ortez, or you see these people who show you not just the cigars, but their lifestyle, right? If we can see you, like Maddie said, the authenticity of not just the process, but your day-to-day on some type of level, then you tap in, and you kind of stay in, that understanding who is making your cigar is the reason why you go in the lounge and you're like, is there something here? You ever go in the lounge and be like, man, I ain't got nothing in here. They got cigars, right? Let's be honest, there's cigars in there, but they don't have anything that you identify with because you don't know who's making it. You don't know, you don't trust sometimes trying something new unless you know who made it, right? Not just by name, but by experience. Like where's the connection there? It's some lounges I'll go in, I'm like, man, they got everything I would smoke, like all the things, right, that I can't get because I live west of Texas and the tax is crazy. So some cigars don't make it all the way out here. But if I go to Texas and I'm, it's Smoker Zabby, I'm like, wow, so many things, like all the things I never had before. But then if I go to Memphis, I'm like, they got all the boutiques. I'm loading up, with things I already know. And part of that has to do with my relationship with either that person or that brand that I follow. I want to follow because I might be a fan, right? Like I might smoke, but I mean, I'm a fan of many people. I know they're dope, but you might not know they're dope.
Yeah.
And I think that helps a lot. There's a reason why certain you go to lounges, they're cutting lights, and some events it's packed, right? It's packed. It is packed because people are coming to see the person. So imagine if everybody felt like they knew somebody, how those cutting lights would be packed every time, or that lounge would be packed every time. It always has to do with who's coming, right? Who's gonna be there? I want to go, right? And so I think that would help if blenders and like if somebody tells me that Manny is showing up somewhere, I'm going, and I've seen it work sometimes, but you got to stay consistent.
I think I agree with that. Especially I'm out in the UK, and what we've been seeing, especially in this post-COVID world, is a lot of. So the UK has been very Cuban heavy, and there's a whole history around it. There's a tax around tobacco, which is crazy, crazy, crazy high. But what I've been seeing a lot is happening out here is that there's more of the tours that guys are doing out here. They're coming out here, they're going into the lounges, and people are coming out and they're actually finding out more about these cigars. So the vibe has changed over the last 2 or 3 years. So I agree with that personal touch because you hear the history and you connect with that person. So when I'm recommending something to somebody, they can see the passion I'm talking about it because I heard it firsthand, and it spreads and it kind of goes like wildfire. So I agree with that. But that's really great. Thank you so much for the answers, and love what you're doing. Keep doing it. And yeah, it's been a great session. Reinhard, Ben, thanks so much, guys.
Thanks. I will add this though, as a consumer or as consumers, we have to also do our part, right? Like if somebody being on the road is expensive, and I say that because, some of the brands I work for, some of them go out more often than others. You have to make it worth their while, right? You have to, if like they said, P. Johnson and John Hubert, listen, I love crown heads, but like if somebody is coming, whether you had an experience or not, you need to show up, because if you make it worth their while, if you give them something, they'll give it back to you. You know what I'm saying? You got to show up, bring your friends. If somebody come that way, I'll get on the phone, call my guy. Hey, so-and-so's having, let's go. Like we move as a unit, because if you show up for them, then the light bulb will come on and they'll keep showing up. You know what I mean? And sometimes they don't always do the best job at outreach, but if you frequent a lounge and somebody's coming and you don't know them, go anyway. Try it. Because we have a responsibility too. It's not always on the retailer, and it's not always on the brand's owner or their reps. Like, show up, because the more you show up, the more they're going to be on the road. And you go, you buy them cigars. You buy those cigars, they'll keep coming. If not, then the cigars that you like or the cigars you get to know, they disappear. So we have to do our part too.
Agree. 100%. Thank you so much.
As Steve said, and buy a box. Well, let me start off with a 5-pack. Okay, the box might be too rich for my blood, but I got 5. I got 5 on it.
Ben, before we wrap things up, I would like to take a little peek into the crystal ball together with you, and tackle 2 aspects. One is more of a challenge or a threat, and the other one is more of a hopefully positive evolution. I'll start with the negative aspect. We've seen social media going hard after content creators and tobacco related content in general. How do you think the industry can evolve beyond that? And let's say tomorrow Meta were to shut down tobacco content entirely, and suddenly Facebook and Instagram are gone as content curation platforms. Where do you feel the industry should set up like a safe space or an alternative for that in order to stay relevant? And the second aspect, and probably tied to that, is we've seen this massive surge in AI platforms and new ways of creating content in more automated ways through AI. How do you think that could plug in to the cigar industry, and how could brand owners or retailers make best use of new tools plopping up?
I'd like to think that if Meta shut everything down, that if that were to happen, then that means that a lot of the responsibility is going to fall on brand owners. And it goes back to my point about being on the road. That is where it was before social media. And that's where it would have to go back to. And I'd hope that those owners took from Instagram how to curate an experience that's worthy of a consumer's loyalty and their dollar. I think in the beginning I used to hear, cigars sell themselves. Not anymore. Unless you are tapped in to somebody already, it would make it really hard for super boutique cigars to survive if there wasn't social media. So it would just fall back on the brand owners and then being back on the road in hopes that we patron retailers, brick and mortars, the way that we did before. And now, so, it's online. And I blame COVID because COVID kind of destroyed the brick and mortar culture. And like I said, I'm already not a lounge smoker. So I don't know if I would really, if I genuinely count, but like I said, like I'll show up if somebody's coming. I think that'll be the bread and butter of that. And as far as AI is concerned, I am very, very, very anxious and unnerved by the idea of somebody being able to take my voice and my likeness and using it without my permission, because I'm very intentional about where I put my energy. I'm very intentional about what I'm going to smoke and how I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm very intentional about who I align my brand with, maybe even to a fault. So if anybody could just do that, and that would tarnish my footprint. And like some other women in this space, in the influencer space, you got people who make flyers and, they say they Google photos and this photo popped up. And I'm like, well, listen, like I'm a humble human, but you knew that was me. And you didn't ask. Right. And so if that's already happening, then it just makes that process even more complicated and a little unnerving, because you need to run me my money before you use my face or my voice or my words. You already have people, stealing, or excuse me, borrowing captions and using it as their own versus, inspiration. And so it's already teetering that line anyway, but I think it would be terrible. I think it would be terrible.
Any positive thoughts on what AI could possibly bring to the cigar industry as well? Or
I think if brands hired, or if they invested in AI, right, and they used it on themselves, right, if they hired somebody to use their in-house likeness to create the things that they do not have time for or the capacity to do, because some people are really busy, like some people can't sit here and do those things, then I think that would benefit them greatly, because then they get to create the content, they get to create these visual representations of themselves and of their content that would create engagement in a way that they're not able to do on their own, as long as they're using it on themselves, right? As long as it's in there, I think it could work. Yeah, I think it could work.
great point.
I think Karen in here. I think I saw her with her hand raised. Let me talk to my girl. Did you have a question, Karen?
Oh, I did, but I hadn't properly formulated it in my head. It was more about whether any promotion's good promotion, or do you think that if you align yourself with an influencer that's popular with one sector and not popular in others, that can damage your brand? Or do you think it's good to just choose your people and stick with your people rather than trying to catch everyone? Or I hadn't properly formulated it, which is why I lowered my hand, but it was more about is it better to be talked about than not talked about at all? Is any promotion good promotion, or is there bad promotion, was my sort of question. But I hadn't really got it right in my head.
I mean, I think back in the day when Bobby Brown was at the height of his career, all promotion probably came off as good promotion. But I think now it could probably ruin somebody's reputation. No one is ever going to be able to tend to everybody. There's a reason why certain brands have loyal smokers. You find somebody that communicates to your demographic and you utilize them in a way that aligns with the consumers that they sell to, right? And then if there's new consumers, there's a lot of new consumers, and like he said down below, he's not a loyal smoker. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's changed, is that people aren't just smoking one brand anymore. And so you find somebody that can talk or speak to people that they haven't reached yet, it could really work in your favor. But you got to know, you kind of got to do your research. Who is it that does this well? Who is it that does this well? And really find out who they're talking to. Go through those comments.
The decision's kind of like whether you choose an influencer that's already aligned with the people you've already got, and you reinforce your consumer base, or whether you go totally off piste, and choose someone that's less like your standard demographic. Let's say you're a real heritage brand and you choose an influencer that's much more street, or whatever you want to say, whether you choose to try and expand your market share, or whether that dilutes what you've already got. That's what I
both can be
kind of formulate. Sorry.
Oh no, I totally understand what you mean. I mean, listen, both can be true at the same time. You could do both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. But I do think that brands gotta know what they want to see from a content curator. What is the outline? What is the marketing strategy here? You have to have a conversation about what you want to see, or numbers you want to hit, or engagement that you want to attain, and who you want to see them do things with. What is acceptable and what isn't? Because if you just give somebody something and say, hey, go for it, then you're gonna get what you're gonna get. And it might not always be pretty. I've seen it happen before. But as long as, you know, a retailer or a brand is very clear about who they want to market to and how they want to do that, then it can work on both sides.
Thank you, my love. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you.
That made me think of something. If I can jump in, if that's all right. I was curious, based on that convo, like, you know, like larger entities, like big companies, and I'm terrible at social media, so I have no idea what I'm talking about, but they'll hire like a person. This is our social media person. And it's their whole job to just handle that portion of the, you know, company. Do you think there's something that can be a little bit inauthentic about that at times, when you might rather see it from, especially if it's like a personality that's sort of at the head of the company, would you rather see it from them? Like, do you think it comes across as kind of canned, or does it sort of depend maybe on the situation and who did they get to do that role, you know?
Yeah, 1000%. Yeah, you got to find the right person, right? Synergy. I think you can tell if somebody really smokes their cigar or if it's an ad, right? And you can do both, right? But also too, don't take jobs with cigars that you don't want to, that you don't like, right? Because it comes out. People can see it, they can feel it, and they know you're probably full of BS. That is the responsibility that a brand has to take on. They have to work with people that align with their brand identity, the same way that they hire a CEO, or the same way they hire a regular marketing person or a roller, or you hire them because they do things in the way that you would do them if you could. It's the same. So yeah.
Do you think it's so important, the social media sort of you know, engagement, and it's so personal in a way? Like, I think the people that really do it well, like you were saying earlier, have like a personal element and the details are all very fine-tuned. Do you think it's a thing where it's like should be handled by the creative person, you know, in the vein that, like, do you think it can be delegated and done well, or should people invest more in that from the top level?
I think everybody deserves, I think brands should be responsible for passing down guidelines. You know, there are some things that I can and cannot do when I work with certain brands. Everybody has their own process and procedure. I think it is a brand's responsibility to outline the things that they want to see and the things that are needed to be mentioned. And sometimes I have to get those things approved, right? Hey, does this sound right? Hey, like, do I have this formula correctly? And whatever those questions are, it needs to be stated very clearly. And then everything around that is just extra, right? So the responsibility can't always be on the content curator. I'm not gonna say like I'm the best, but I believe that I do a decent job at making sure that all of the components are there, or I communicate an experience with that cigar based on my affiliation with that brand. You gotta spend time, you know, with the stuff that you're selling or the stuff that you're, you know, handing off to somebody.
Cool. Thank you.
Wonderful questions today, and what an engaging and an inspiring session. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today and sharing your thoughts, your questions. Ben, of course, my biggest and most sincere gratitude goes to you for joining us today, and thank you so much for spending these past 2 hours with us, sharing your enthusiasm, your passion, your experience. It's been an absolute pleasure and a joy to have you at the Light 'em Up Lounge. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Reinhard. It's so awesome. He's so great. I love you. Absolutely.
Likewise. right back
Thank you
in.
guys. Thank you guys for
Ben, it was
coming. I really
lovely to
appreciate
have
it.
you. Thanks,
Ben
everybody.
Willis, awesome session, really. One of the best. Reinhard, kudos to you.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you, Albert, and thanks to all of you for your continued support, your love, and your fellowship. It means the world. So I hope to see you again next week here, same time, same station. And by the way, quick shout out. Next week is the Premium Cigar Association's International Policy Summit. We will be co-streaming, and I have the privilege and honor of moderating one of the panels. So we'll start earlier next week because we're going to co-stream the PCA International Policy Summit. I believe it's starting at 10 Eastern time, so that's going to be 4 p.m. Central European time. Please join us for that session, and then we'll have a regular Light 'em Up lounge just after the PCA summit concludes. So we're in for a big one next week. Join us again, same time, same station, or longer time, but same station, that's for sure. Again, Ben Willis, Sistas in Smoke, thank you so much. And to all of you, light 'em up, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Great.
Thank you.